tell you something, I ain't never been a water boy. Always played up in the game, you niggas tough as dollar toys. I know you see me leaning, need to go and buy a kickstand. Fucking with me dangerous, just like cooking in the meth lab. Fall in love with me, but now you riding in a death trap. Me against the world, that'll probably be my best match. She stay on the line, you would think the bitch is gay. Say she got her OnlyFans, I said now who am I to hate?
What's good, people? I'm BS the God, and this is another episode of BS the God's Brass and Drum Section, where we talk everything guns and ammo. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the arsenal. Alright, so on today's episode, we are going to be swapping out some parts on this Radical Arms 300 Blackout pistol. First, we're going to swap out this Ambidextrous charging handle. As you can see, one of the sides broke off the other day at the range. And then we're going to add this Sylvan Arms folding brace adapter. Let's get it. Alright, so let's get started. First, we're going to install this Sylvan Arms folding brace adapter. To do that, we're going to have to separate the upper from the lower receiver. Empty. This one's all clear. Go ahead and take that sling off first. To separate the upper from the lower, we're going to have to remove these two pins right here and right there. The pins on this one are a tad bit stiff just because it's a fairly new gun. Doesn't take much to take those out. Alright.
One eternity later.
Pull that through on the other side. Now we just got the upper receiver. So we'll put that to the side for now until we're ready to install that ambidextrous charging handle. So for installing the folding brace adapter, we're going to be working with the lower receiver. Right. So first what we're going to do is, obviously, we need to remove the brace. The adjustable part, you pull up the opposite end and it comes off. Alright, so now we got that off. So next we're going to remove this buffer spring and the buffer that's inside here. So the easiest way for me is you just hit that little retaining pin right there and the whole thing just flies out, so be careful. Put some pressure on it so that doesn't happen. Just pulls all the way out. Put that to the side. Alright, so the next step after we've got the buffer and the buffer spring removed, we're going to have to loosen this castle nut right here. And when we're removing the castle nut, you're going to want to keep this back plate right here. Keep some pressure on it because there's a spring underneath it that'll just fly out of there if you don't keep any pressure on it. To remove the castle nut, you're going to need some kind of armorer's wrench, something like that, that has that castle nut wrench on it. I'm going to use this little small one. Yeah, that's all it takes, is just one small. Remember to keep some pressure on that base plate, let it off real slowly so that you can get that spring that's in there still. Okay, and then you can spin the buffer tube just a little bit so you can grab that spring out of there. See how little that is? Put that to the side because we're gonna have to put that back in there. Alright, now we're going to unscrew the buffer tube, but again, we got to keep pressure on this. If you can see that, this little pin in there, that retaining pin. Alright, so I like to get like a flathead screwdriver and then depress it and then unscrew the buffer tube. Alright, buffer tube off. Let that retaining pin and spring come out. That's what that looks like. Put that to the side. Make sure you keep track of all these little parts, man. You gotta put them all back in there. Alright. Next, let's bust this thing out of here. We got the folding brace adapter made by Sylvan Arms. While we're screwing this back in, we're gonna depress that back down into the receiver. See, that's why you gotta keep the spring depressed. Lucky for me, it just flew over my shoulder, and I got an extra pack of these in the drawer over there, but my heart just about dropped. Alright, let's try this again. Whew, man. Could have been all bad. Okay, so
1 week later.
there's a hole in this so that that pin will actually seat in the hole. There it goes. We gotta get this little spring back underneath that base plate. What I mean is this base plate right here, we gotta get it seated up underneath there. There's a little hole. Alright, so now that we got the folding brace adapter seated into place with the pin, we have to get this back into the rear of this receiver. So there's a really easy way I learned how to do this after installing a few of these. So what we're going to do is we're going to depress that pin again, and we're just going to push or spin the folding brace adapter just a little bit, you know, just so that spring still doesn't pop out. But as you can see, it reveals that little hole right there, and that's where this spring goes. I'm gonna slip the spring into that hole, and then I'm gonna take my flathead screwdriver, try to get a small one if you can, and I'm going to depress that spring flat down all the way into that hole. And I spun it back and it clicked right back into place. Okay, now that that's in place, I can take out my flathead screwdriver. As you can see, the spring is still straight in there, and I can just press that base plate down and tighten the castle nut. There we go. Alright, we got the castle nut tightened on there. See, now we got our folding brace adapter started. So now we got to get the buffer tube installed back onto the folding brace adapter. So we're going to put it at a 90-degree angle, just like that. And then we're going to grab our buffer tube with our base plate on there and just start screwing it in. So once we get the buffer tube screwed all the way in as far as it can go, we're going to push that base plate up against the adapter and then tighten this castle nut as well. And I'm going to close this so that I can tighten the castle nut. Go. Got the castle nut tightened, and we got our folding brace adapter installed. I really like these because when you fold it, it locks into place. Yep. Alright. Next, we are going to reinstall our buffer and spring. Open this back up, just push it in there just like regular. Alright, so we got everything installed back onto the lower receiver. We got the buffer tube, buffer spring, and the buffer all in there with the folding brace adapter. We're done with that, except at the very end we'll attach this bolt carrier group extender onto the bolt carrier. Alright, the next thing on the list is we're going to replace this broken ambidextrous charging handle. Alright, so to do that, we're just going to pull it straight out, and your bolt carrier group's going to come out with it. That's the used to be ambidextrous charging handle. Right, here's the new one. So we're going to put this one back in there, press it to the top of the upper receiver, put our bolt carrier group in, just slide it all back in there together, and it pops right back into place. Alright, so we're also going to reinstall our arm brace. So again, you'll pull the opposite side down, and it should go right back onto your buffer tube, just like that. After we get this arm brace attached back to our buffer tube, we're going to take this, flip it around. Alright, then we're going to take our upper receiver, make sure both of the pins on that lower receiver are still popped open, and we are going to attach our lower back to our upper. Alright, so just push those pins in. So the last thing that we got to do is insert the bolt carrier group extension. So we're going to take the folding brace adapter, unfold it. We're going to plug the bolt carrier group extension into the rear of the bolt carrier, fold that back up, and we're ready to go. Blackout 300 Radical Firearms. Alright y'all, that's it. I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of BS the Gawd'z Brass and Drum Section. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the arsenal.
You need to step it up, cause you can't be serious. You need to fall back, cause you can't be serious. Get your swagger right, you can't be serious. Me fall off, man, you can't be serious. You need to step it up, cause you can't be serious. You need to fall back, cause you can't be serious. Get your swagger right, you can't be serious. Me fall off, man, you can't be serious.